I actually, believe it or not, I actually think that narrative was stupider than the Yankee Met one.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsulias. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. With me, as usual, my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian.
Stacey, what's up? How can you not be excited? I mean, it's the offseason, but a lot's going on.
Yeah, this has been a busy week and a half ish here. Yeah. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified when our videos go up. Today's show, it's Fan Mail Friday. Hooray! It's Friday again. How did that happen? It comes a lot faster when you're only doing 3 shows a week. Or in this case, we did 4 shows because of the Bellinger trade. And speaking of that, we're going to talk about Cody Bellinger's Zoom press conference with the media. And we are also going to talk about Max Fried's introductory press conference as well, because that happened this week. But first, as I said, it is Fan Mail Friday. And if you are new to the channel, we do Fan Mail Friday every week, except during the playoffs. And we get questions from our listeners and viewers, and we have our insiders. There's an insiders club. There's a link in the description. Go look at it. But they get top priority every Fan Mail Friday. And every Fan Mail Friday starts off with our first insider, Betty, who asks, what would you think about putting Pereira in left, Dominguez in center, Bellinger at first, Peraza at second, and Chisholm at third, or vice versa?
You know, Betty, it's interesting because I don't think you're too far off, but I do think there's another move to be made. Like, yeah. I don't think it's going to be Perez at second and Peraza at second and Chisholm at third. I think I think the answer to where Jazz Chisholm plays next year is within who they acquire in the coming days or weeks. Whoever they acquire, a second baseman or a third baseman, I think is where Jazz moves to the opposite direction. I don't think it's going to be. I think they proved to you last year what they thought of Peraza by not giving him a lot of play time, and they really haven't given him a legit fair chance so far. And I don't think that's coming. So if they haven't given it to him by now, I don't think they're going to give it to him anytime soon. So I don't think it's soon. I don't know if Pereira is their left fielder either. And Bellinger is willing to play anywhere, but there was that report that came out the Yankees have told him he's going to be playing center field. So I would think that means he's playing center field for the most part. Why would that report come out publicly? So
no, but Boone kind of squashed that during
which makes me think, where did it come from? Where did that, So I don't know. We'll see what they wind up doing position wise, but I don't think it's necessarily fair to be discussing positional where they're going to go yet, because I do think there's moves still pending. I do.
Oh yeah, I think so too. I think there could be 2 more moves made before all is said and done.
Positional moves, and I think there's going to be like a cosmetic bullpen move made too.
Oh yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I meant position.
Yeah.
I
don't think there's a big pitching name that's going to be acquired yet anymore. I think that's done, but I do think there'll be a smaller bullpen reliever that's acquired on the pitching market. But they might bring in another backup catcher. There could be. I don't know. I think they might be done at outfield. I'm starting to believe, too, there's a chance that they go with Bellinger at first, and they, you're hearing a lot of rumblings about Harrison Bader, that they're very interested in him. They might go at a Bader and Grisham kind of like platoon in center field, which I don't think is the worst thing ever.
No, because they're both really good defensively.
Yeah. So, it's the bat where you lack. But again, if they're going to acquire all this bat talent, then I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think the one guy they're proving that they're not necessarily interested in is Santander.
Oh yeah, no.
And I don't know what the market is for him necessarily, but I don't think they're necessarily really going to be interested in him, only because they do lack that power in their lineup, but they don't lack the strikeouts, and he's going to provide a lot of that too.
Yeah.
And he's not a great fielder, and I think having to pigeonhole him in right field would mean Judge has to go back to center. And
yeah, we don't want that.
I think, and I don't think they do either. I think they're realizing he's in his 30s, and there's going to be a lot more wear and tear if he winds up playing center field more than right. So, but again, positional discussions are hard to have right now.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you, Betty.
Let's go to Chris L. He says, if the Yankees were to part with Brian Cashman, I'm wait for the screen. If the Yankees were to part with Brian Cashman, do you think they would look internally for a new GM or hire or someone from the outside? I'll say this. There's no chance they're parting with Cashman, especially this offseason after what he's done.
No.
But I don't. Every time we have this conversation, Stacey, it feels like a moot point because they're never getting rid of him. But it would definitely be an internal hire, I think.
I would think so, too. I would be shocked if they went with someone from, that's what I meant to say, went with someone from the outside. That would be very un-Yankee-like, right? Because, I mean,
they're also very much about comfort, right? Like, they don't like to, like, deviate and do things crazy. And
to a fault.
Clearly, to a fault, but that's clearly what it is. So
yeah.
I can't imagine that they would deviate to the point of going outside the organization for a GM.
Yeah.
Now, that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but it doesn't feel like it feels like they would just, and it's either, and if it was outside, it would be someone that was with the Yankee organization for years and took a chance somewhere else.
Right.
So, but he's not going anywhere.
Right. Chris actually asked 2 questions last week, and the answer to the one that we didn't use, he asked about the compensation pick for Soto not picking up the not accepting the qualifying offer. So what I looked up, it said that the qualifying offer pick will be made after the 4th round.
Correct. Yeah, it's a 5th round. It's a 5th round pick.
Yeah. So,
which actually isn't terrible. If you really think about it, it's not that terrible, but
no.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Next question from Eric S. Do you think it's time to retire the idea that either the Yankees or the Mets will take over the city given their performance or acquisitions? Maybe the casual fan will switch allegiances, but the core fan bases won't, which is true. It is ridiculous, though, when you think about it, because it's just as silly as when the Nets put the super team together and they were taking over New York and blah, blah, blah. And where did that get you? Nowhere, because you didn't win anything with that super team. So
I actually, believe it or not, I actually think that narrative was stupider than the Yankee Met one.
Oh, yeah.
Just because, I mean, I think Yankees, Mets, in New York is probably about 60-40 when it comes to people who root for the teams. Maybe 65-35, but there's a large percentage of New Yorkers that represent the Mets. The Mets don't have a small fan base.
No, not at all.
The Nets have about 12 people that root for them. So the Knicks, when it comes to who roots for who in the city, then it's literally about 88-12 when it comes to percentage of Knicks fans to Nets fans. So that one I thought was even dumber because I mean they still weren't selling out with that super team.
Yeah.
When it comes to this, I don't think it matters what baseball team rules the city. Like the Mets could absolutely rule the city, and the Yankees could become the little brother. But if the Yankees win a World Series, I don't care who's who. I care about the Yankees winning. I don't care who's big brother, little. It doesn't matter to me. I don't know why it feels like a narrative that's driven by a lot of Mets fans because they've never been able to be big brothers, so now they feel like they can be, which is fine. If that's what gets you to go to sleep at night, then by all means. It does nothing for me. And I'll say this. I know the core fans aren't, leaving teams, but if you're switching from the Yankees to the Mets or Mets to the Yankees because of what's going on in the offseason, you're not a real fan.
No.
You're not. Yeah, and I hate to sound that crazy, but you're not a real fan. And you're not at the passion level that a real fan is. I don't want to hear it. And the person that I hate the most, and I think you'll agree with this, is the person who roots for New York. Yeah, that I hate more than anything. I don't get that.
I've never gotten that.
I'll never understand it either. Last question for this segment is from Ruben. Ruben says, do you think that the leadoff hitter is currently on the roster? This is a very, very interesting question, Stacey, because we didn't know who the leadoff hitter was going to be going into spring training last year. We didn't know who the leadoff hitter was going to be going into June of last year. because Anthony Volpe really got the first month and a half at the leadoff spot until they moved him out of there. And, Gleyber Torres finished the year off really solidifying himself as their leadoff hitter. I'd like to think so, but I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I don't know either, because I'm trying to think, like, do they try to put Volpe back there? Like, maybe he works on something in the offseason and maybe he can get back into the leadoff spot and
Because
maybe make it work?
I think ideally he's your typical leadoff hitter.
Right.
He is. He gets on base a lot. He can run like he
That's
is.
why I was so excited
leadoff.
when he got off to that start. I was like, this is what I was envisioning for him. This is what I wanted. And then it, he hit a wall.
We do always have to remember that he's like 23 years old now. So we do have to keep that into perspective. He's a baby.
Yeah.
But I think in my ideal world, he's the leadoff hitter next year. But it could very easily be Harrison Bader. They can go back to that experiment. If they sign him, I don't think there's anything wrong with the lineup looking like Bader, Judge, Bellinger, and Stanton.
Right.
That's not a crazy start to your lineup next year. So
no.
I would say this. I don't, and hopefully you'll accept this answer, Ruben. I don't know if the leadoff hitter is or isn't on the roster yet. But if it makes you feel better, I don't think the Yankees know who their leadoff hitter is yet.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notifications so you know when our videos go up. If you would like to be part of next week's Fan Mail Friday, leave your question below our videos when we post them, because it's not Monday through Thursday. It's only 3 times a week. And just put Fan Mail Friday first and then your question, so it'll be easier for me to find. Or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. You get top priority. Your questions are almost always answered in segment 1, unless it spills over into segment 2. But the link is in the description for that. And it isn't only for Fan Mail Friday. You get text from us. You can text us questions, comments. There's a 14-day free trial. And it's a lot of fun. So coming up next, more Fan Mail Friday.
Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions that you forgot you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I personally had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize that I was paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It was like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel any unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending. It helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together, all available in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users. They've saved a total of $550 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton of money personally. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. There's no more stressing about budgeting every single month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. And this episode of Locked On Yankees is also brought to you by SelectQuote. Now, guys, the World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, all those events, the world's top athletes get to play. So thanks to one thing. It's all thanks to teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safe in your family's end zone. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. You invest so much time to take care of yourself and to be the healthiest and best version of yourself. SelectQuote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. Head over to SelectQuote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. Get the right life insurance for you for less at SelectQuote.com/locked-on. Go to SelectQuote.com/locked-on today to get started. That's SelectQuote.com/locked-on. Stacey, more listener questions ahead, and this time it's an insider, and it's a new insider. Ethan, we thank you for joining the Insiders Club. He asks, hey, Brian and Stacey, those are our names. My question is, what would your Yankees dream team be using Yankees from any point in time be? What would your starting 9, batting order, rotation, and bullpen, and if you're up to it for bench, look like? Love the show. Always look forward for a new episode. Well, you're getting those 3 days a week now in the offseason. Very interesting of what your all-time. I don't know if he's asking your ultimate team, like who's, am I including Ruth and Gehrig, or is it guys that only I've seen play? Like,
no, it says that if it's from any point in time. So you could put.
This is ridiculous. Then this could go on for years, for days.
I would just, I always give my standard answer is I just want the 2009 team back. I want the rotation back. I want the lineup back.
Definitely
I want the bench
infield
back. And I want the bullpen back.
I'll give you some food for thought, Ethan, because we haven't had time to mention this in the show. This probably would have been a 5-day-a-week debate topic between me and Stacey, but before baseball's economy really crazily took off like it is right now, what would the 2009 infield legitimately cost in today's market?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If you really think of it, Teixeira, Cano, Jeter, and A-Rod, what would that infield cost?
Jeez.
It would be easily a $1 billion infield.
Oh, yeah.
Easily $1 billion. Because you think about these contracts, and some of these guys must be kicking themselves because I was debating it to myself, and I'll go with the same answer as Stacey, by the way, Ethan. I'm going with the 09 infield for sure. The outfield, I need some more time to consider because there's a lot of potential outfielders. But the 09 infield for sure. I will say this, though, if you want to think about this. Like, what is the contract Alex Rodriguez would have signed if he played in today's era? Like, legitimately, after the Juan Soto year. What would A-Rod have signed for? What would Derek Jeter have signed for? Think about it. Hitters nowadays, if you hit 270, you're an awesome hitter. Derek Jeter was hitting 315 every year. So what was Jeter going to say with 315 with, 90? He probably would have had more homers now because of launch angle. So what would Derek Jeter have signed for? $35 million a year, probably, at least, right? And A-Rod would have got $60 million a year at his numbers. Juan Soto is an awesome player, but he ain't putting up A-Rod's numbers in his prime, right? Robbie Cano, what was he going to sign for? What would Mark Teixeira have signed for? You look at what Mark Teixeira got paid with the Yankees. That was a bargain compared to what guys get paid now with lesser numbers.
Like back then, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe this contract. And now it's like, that's
and in
nothing.
the last 15 years, it's just skyrocketed to the point. Yeah. So I wonder what that 09 team would have got paid. That infield in today's market is easily $1 billion infield, if not way more.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that's our last insider question. And thank you, Ethan. Again, thank you for being a new insider. We appreciate it. So now we're doing YouTube questions. And this one is long. And hopefully
YouTube needs a character count. Would you like me to do this one?
Oh, you want to? Okay.
Yeah, I'll take care of it for you.
Okay.
Kevin Height 12, who needs to be character counted, says you all have talked about the number of owners that basically pocket the revenue sharing payments each month. What would you think about implementing a competitive balance floor tax? Meaning a team would need to reach a certain payroll threshold to receive a full share each year. Just as an example, say a team would need to have a minimum payroll of $90 million to receive an entire share. You could also have various levels. For instance, if a team's payroll is $75 million to $89 million, then that team would only receive 75% of a full revenue share that year. If a team's payroll is between $60 and $74 million, then that team would only receive 50% of the full share. Anything under $60 million would result in the team only receiving 25% of a full share. A type of system like this, in theory, should push owners to invest in their teams more. Kevin, I'll argue with this because I've mentioned this to friends a bunch in the recent past, and I'll continue to argue this. Just go with what the NBA and NFL have. Create a standard floor. A floor and a cap. And I think baseball could definitely and should survive without a hard ceiling of a cap. Because you have to allow the teams that make more money to spend more money. That's how sports works. So I don't have a problem with the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Cubs and the Dodgers. You have to allow teams to outbid themselves. And you want bidding wars in off seasons. And if there was a hard salary cap, then you wouldn't have bidding wars. Because you don't have that in the NFL. There are no bidding wars in the NFL because there's a hard cap. You can't go over it. So I don't think there should be a cap. I like what the NBA has, where there's a tax for going a certain amount over the cap. That I like. A floor, I think baseball's needed a floor forever. because they would, even if the floor wasn't that big. I mean, because the numbers you're giving me, the lowest floor you want is $60 million. That's not much. That's one player. Now, in 5 years, that's one player. So it's not even that much. I think the floor should be $100 million in baseball. I do. And every team should be forced to pay it. Again, the competitive balance, not the competitive balance, the shared revenue last year was, what did we say? It was $217 million, something in that range. That if
Somewhere.
the floor was $100 million, Stacey, that's not these owners can still pocket money and spend, because you're having instances now where how many the teams that have not made a signing or a trade this offseason far outweighs the teams who have made a move. Far out. And that's embarrassing as a sport. It is. So they need to figure something out in the next CBA, because it's getting to the point where the A's just signed their largest contract ever, and the total of the deal was like $60 million. You can't have this anymore. You really can't.
Yeah.
What would you do? Would you add a floor?
Yes. I've been saying that for years, that there should be a floor. I don't know what the number should be, but there definitely should be a floor. It's ridiculous that some of these teams are paying their entire payroll is as much as some guys are making.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely nuts. It's
criminal.
To the point where it's crazy.
It's not fair to the fans of those teams when your team doesn't even bother spending money. Like, why are you like? I understand you love baseball. You want to go to baseball games. You want to have fun. It shouldn't always be about if your team's going to make the World Series. I get it, because the season's really long, but it gets to a point where, we have fan bases who haven't won anything in coming up on, let's see, the Pirates last won 45 years ago.
Yeah.
They barely make the playoffs ever. Why are people going to these games? Because the ballpark is awesome and they've just been supporting their team for years and years and years. But when does it get to a point where baseball says, you guys have to start spending a little bit of money?
Or trying.
And when does it, or
that's
at least,
the problem too. Like, I don't, like we've said, like I think less people and less fans in the NFL have a problem when their team stinks, because at least their cap, their floor is at like $230 million. So at least they're spending the money.
Right.
In the NFL, when you stink, Stacey, you stink because you're spending your money poorly. It's not because you're not spending. It's just because you're spending it poorly. In Major League Baseball, and I think fans can live with that more. If the guys make the wrong decisions, and that guess what? That GM gets fired the next year and they start over. You can live with that more, because you can sit there and say, oh, well, he just made terrible signings and that's what happened. It's a lot harder in baseball when you're not even making signings. There's not even an attempt being made to get better. That's the frustrating part in baseball.
Yeah. And our final question of Fan Mail Friday from Big Georgie 333 on YouTube. Okay, so I know this isn't going to be too popular a question, but I have to ask. Have you guys ever felt disgusted or discouraged being a Yankee fan? Just listening to the backlash from fans/media after Soto leaving, how all of a sudden he was a bum, even though he helped us to the World Series a few years ago with fans throwing trash at the Guardians during a game. At what point does passion end and toxic fan base begin? I've just been at a loss for words. Thank you, guys.
You're going to hate my opinion on this. I don't think you will. I think you'll understand it, but I think a lot of people that listen to our show are going to hate my opinion on this. I think the Yankees have had a toxic fan base for a very long time. I do. I think the Yankees personally, and I'm full disclosure, I'm a Yankee fan. I have a Yankee tattoo. I love the organization. I'm a season ticket holder. I'm there all the time. I support it like no other. While having that opinion, and the Yankees have very passionate fans. While having that opinion, I can also have the opinion. I think the Yankees at times, and those times are pretty frequent, have one of the worst fan bases in all sports.
Mm-hmm.
I fully believe that. And that may aggravate some of you, and I'm sorry if it does. And I know the Yankees, I'm not saying they're not passionate. I'm not saying they don't know their stuff. But when it comes to toxic and when it comes to toxic fan bases, Yankees have a pretty bad one. I mean, you're talking about a very spoiled fan base that has seen their team do a lot of winning. But the idea that there is a fan base that goes into every single season expecting a championship out of a team is nuts. That is a crazy expectation for a team every single year. And the fact that it's a fan base that talks crap to every single one of their friends who doesn't root for the same team as them. And the argument they always have and will always sit on is 27 rings when 80% of those rings were won prior to 1970. It's a crazy, crazy, crazy thing to do. I know people do it, and people will always do it, and that's fine. But it is a wild narrative, and it is not. Love the team. We'll never not admit that.
Well, it's funny to me because people like, but people around your age are, crowing about it. And I think to myself, you don't remember, not you, collective
no,
you.
Me. No, me.
But collective you in that age range. You don't remember the dynasty. You were barely alive.
It's funny.
So why are you crowing about 27 rings or even crowing about the dynasty? You didn't experience it.
One of my best friends is a Mets fan, and his older brother despises the Yankees. He actually thinks being a Yankee fan is a character flaw. That's how.
I know some. I know people who think that too. Yeah.
And the funny part is, and my friend has consistently said he hates the Yankees so much because growing up there were kids that would bully him in school for being a Mets fan, and they were Yankee fans, and they would 20 at the time, 26 rings. These kids had not seen one of those championships live. They hadn't seen one. So you don't have the right to talk the crap. I mean, yeah, the team that you root for won the most, but you weren't alive for any of them. And also you can't even play on any of those teams. So it's a weird one. And it's a hard conversation to have because I know I'm a Yankee fan and I host the Yankee podcast and the Yankees pay a lot of my income. But, the Yankees popularity pays a lot of my income.
Yeah.
But not a terrific fan base. The Locked On Yankees fan base is hands down second to none. But the New York Yankees fan base, not a wonderful one.
No. All right, coming up next, Max Fried and Cody Bellinger are officially Yankees. They talked to the press. We will talk about them coming up next.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL. All of it's available in one place. So when you get a hunch, in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more. All available on the same page where you place all of your bets. College football playoff is finally here, and it's here this weekend. You can bet on the Notre Dame game Friday night. You can bet on any of the games going on Saturday night, all 3 games. Sunday, there's a million bets that are out there to place, and they're all available on FanDuel.com. That's where you'll go to visit, and you'll join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's it. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel. It's an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, Stacey, as we move on from the questions, we are going to get into the press conferences and all that kind of stuff that broke down as guys were there. Max Fried had a press conference at Yankee Stadium on Wednesday. That was, I believe it was televised, but I saw all the clips on social media. I believe it was televised, though.
Yep, it was on, yes.
That was there. They spoke to Max Fried. He toured the stadium, took a bunch of pictures with his family and his girlfriend, Rose Lavelle, who I wish I knew. But regardless, I don't know if you noticed, too, I did want to point this out to you. Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone brought out flowers for Max Fried's mother and Rose Lavelle. Garbage franchises generally do that don't treat their players well. So very nice to see Max Fried there in a Yankee uniform. Made a lot of interesting comments where he almost couldn't believe the Yankees were interested in him and he said something in the press conference that struck me a little bit when he said, if the he didn't expect the Yankees to be in on him in this offseason. And he said, if the Yankees are interested in you, you listen. And I think he definitely didn't intend for this to come across this way, but it did in my head, it came across this way. Because it made me think of all of the last couple of years where they refused to talk to certain guys. And if that's the narrative that goes around baseball, like, I don't know, Bryce Harper. Where they didn't talk to Bryce Harper and they didn't want to hear from him or anything, and you didn't know what Bryce Harper wanted from the Yankees. What if Bryce Harper was willing to sign again, I've said this a million times, what if he was willing to sign a 1-year deal to pump his numbers up and try and advance that salary a little more? You don't know, and you'll never know because you never spoke to him. And I think Max Fried's comments, a guy who's pretty popular in baseball and been around for a while, saying when the Yankees talk to you, you listen, I think that means something.
Yeah, I found that interesting. I was trying to think about had I ever heard him speak, and I remembered that one All-Star game where him and Cole were going back and forth because they were both mic'd, but that was the only time I ever heard him speak. And I like guys like Max Fried because he's very thoughtful with his answers and he's careful when he answers. You know, he thinks about it for a second and he doesn't want to answer things too quickly. And I found that interesting. And I think that I think this is a good thing. I think he's very, you know, like you said, he wasn't expecting the Yankees, and when they came, he was like, well, yeah, because he said, you know, the thing about it's the Yankees. Like, who wouldn't want to play for the Yankees? Yeah.
That bare minimum, what he said is you listen.
Yeah.
That's what's key to me is you don't, that's why you talk to everybody, because you don't, again, Bryce Harper grew up a Yankee fan. So I still think if they would have taught, I don't know if it's for sure. I don't know if a Boris client was taking less money. I'm not arguing that. And we'll never know the answer to that. But you don't know if Bryce Harper, who was enough of a superstar to say to his agent, would have said, you know, I wanted to be Yankee since I was a kid. I think my lefty bat can put up crazy numbers. I want to sign with the Yankees for 1 year.
Every time he hits a home run in Citizens Bank Park, I'm like, oh,
yeah,
that would have looked so great going into the short porch, but it doesn't, and it won't unless he's an opponent. Fun facts about Max Fried that came out on Wednesday. He has a dog. It's a 3-year-old mutt named Apollo Fried. I love that so much. Terrific. Also, he's a big music guy. Bob Lorenz pointed that out, and he told Max Fried that Jack Curry is a very big music guy, so they're going to have conversations in the subsequent years. So they asked him what he's been listening to lately. He said he listens to 90s hip hop thanks to his older brother, and that last year he warmed up to Work by Gangstar, which I was like, hell yeah, Max Fried, because you were
I have no idea what that is.
An infant when that song was out. So yeah, it was great. And I like how excited he looked. Obviously, you look excited when you go to a new team, but he didn't look overwhelmed either. He just looked like, yeah, I'm a Yankee. Cool. Like,
yeah.
And that's what you want to see.
He's ready to go.
He's ready to go. Another guy who's ready to go. Cody Bellinger. Had a Zoom conference, because when they trade for guys, they don't usually have the press conference like they, when you sign someone to $218 million, you're going to take them around Yankee Stadium and put them in front of the press.
Yeah.
Where if you're just trading for someone, you do the Zoom. Because, they did Zoom with Soto last year. So, so Cody Bellinger was on Zoom talking. And we decided we were going to show this because we're not sure if everyone remembers this from 2020. But this is what Cody Bellinger said after all the Astros stuff came out.
What are your thoughts on what the Astros did yesterday?
I thought the apologies were whatever. I thought Jim Crane's was weak. I thought Manfred's punishment was weak, giving him immunity. These guys were cheating for 3 years. I think what people don't realize is Altuve stole an MVP from Judge in 2017. Everyone knows they stole the ring from us.
If that clip doesn't get you excited to watch him put on pinstripes, then I don't know what will. He has a healthy hatred for the Astros.
Yeah, well, we don't have to worry about the Astros really but I like that. I like that he brought up the fact that he thought Altuve stole the MVP from Judge.
Yeah, and you know what? That'll resonate. It will. It will resonate. It'll make him proud to be a Yankee. I think he'll want to. He did feel slighted being a Dodger, feeling like a ring was stolen from him in that year, which it probably was.
Yeah.
But, more importantly, I think, there is a different kind of hatred with the Yankees that it comes to, and he's bringing that over too for the Astros. So those kind of things can motivate you. So, and it's not like the AL Central is that, the AL West is that strong. So the Astros could still win the division next year. Is not a great team. And I don't think the Yankees would enjoy anything more than sweeping them or kicking their butt in the postseason if they really can. So, Cody Bellinger is going to, I don't know how you could not be excited about him being a Yankee.
Yep.
He's going to be a really good Yankee. He's going to fit in this team really well.
Yep. He's ready to go. He seems excited. And Really loves wearing his hats backwards.
Yeah, he also has a resting stoner face usually.
Yes.
You realize that. He does always, he has claimed he does not smoke on the field or anything like that, but he does have a resting stoner face for sure. Another fun fact about Cody Bellinger, I don't know if you knew this, Stacey. His current wife used to date Giancarlo Stanton.
Yes, I did see reports about that. Yes.
So that'll be an interesting, I wonder if they have a conversation about that. I'm sure they will at some point.
Yeah, that's interesting. Also, Stanton is in Puerto Rico. He's working with kids down there, little leaguers, and has a bit of a, because once the off season starts, the guys grow their beards out. I really want the Yankees to relax their facial hair policy. It is going to be 2025. It's like 50 years of this now. Like, just relax it a bit and let these guys, because I don't have facial hair. Well, enough to have to shave. I'm Greek and Italian, so I have a little bit of something there, but I don't know what it's like to have to shave my face every day, but if I had to shave my legs every day, I'd be really annoyed. So I just give these guys a break, Hal. I know that you kind of want to keep the tradition going because it's a George thing, but enough is enough. It's almost 2025. Let these guys be. Let these guys express themselves. I don't want anyone looking like Brandon Marsh or Charlie Blackmon and, like nothing like that. Let Devin Williams keep his facial hair.
Yeah.
Let Stanton grow his facial hair out. Just enough already.
I've had facial. I used to have to shave every day for high school, and I hated it every day. I used to hate it. Now I've had a beard literally for the last decade, and I love it. So I don't understand the rule at all anymore. I don't care. If you want to look like Brandon Marsh, by all means, go ahead. I don't love the look, and I wouldn't personally have it. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you get to look like or not.
No, don't do the Brandon Marsh thing, because I would never hear the end of it from my mother. Because anytime she saw him on TV, what is that? What is that? My
grandma does the same thing.
Yeah. So, because your grandma is probably my mom's age. So
my grandma loses her mind whenever she used to lose her mind over Jason Worth. Oh, come on, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So let's relax the facial hair rule. And even let some of the guys grow their hair a little longer. They let Cole get away with it, but of course they were paying him $324 million. And he was like, I'm going to have a bob. Let me have a bob. So let some of these guys express themselves. That's all I'm saying. So thank you guys for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball. He's also a baseball encyclopedia. It's a lot of fun to hear him pull out names seemingly out of nowhere that you've never heard of. And he keeps you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. You can find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you next week.